Have you ever looked at all the gear musicians use and wonder, how does it all work? My name's Dustin, and my family and I are setting out on a quest to inspire both adult and kid musicians to create new sounds together and learn all about what it takes to produce great music. We'd like to invite you along on the journey as we explore the gear professional studios, musicians, and hobbyists use to create their art. We'll take a close-up look at the gear and ask,
what's this button do?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of What's This Button Do? I'm your host, Dustin, and today I am so excited to finally get to show you the new Benson Germanium Preamp. This thing is amazing. Now, I know it's been out for just a little bit, so you've probably got to see a few demos out there that are showing you the basics of it, and it does sound great. But I've discovered something really fun about this that I wanted to share with you that I don't think anybody's really talking about right now. You see, most Germanium preamps and Germanium Fuzz pedals especially have to be run close to the start of your signal chain, if not right from your guitar right into the pedal itself, because germanium transistors are incredibly finicky and kind of like to run early on in the chain. But the cool thing is Chris has figured out a way to dial this in so that this pedal not only acts as a beautiful preamp and can even get into some fuzzy territory, but it can take other pedals and enhance them and turn them into such a beautiful, sweet sounding thing by running their signal through that germanium transistor. And oh my gosh, what this can do to some of my favorite pedals, it's amazing. So I thought what we would do is we'll hop over to the pedal board. I'll show you just some of the basics of the pedal itself, and then we'll start adding some other pedals in so you can hear what it sounds like when you run some other pedals through it. So join me over there, won't you? Today we are going to be using our Cower Mandalorian gripping, and we're going to start off with just the Benson preamp. So I want you to hear the clean tone here. So just really clean, nice, nothing set, not like on the edge of breakup or anything. I'm just kind of setting it nice and clean on the amp. So let's look at what we've got here. Now, if you're familiar with the standard Benson preamp, this will seem really familiar to you. You've got all the same controls. You basically got your treble, your volume, your bass, and your drive. And for anybody who's familiar with Chris's work, he is notorious about this. He tries to make the whole knob range very, very usable. So usually you'll see this bass knob is not something that you have to set in the middle. You can have it turned all the way down and you'll still get a beautiful tone out of it. So let's just turn it on with all the knobs kind of set to noon so you can hear what it sounds like. You can hear it kind of like it's like moving the amp to an edge of breakup. Now with these Germanium ones, you kind of need to turn it up just a little bit, because if we turn the volume all the way low, you can hear very little coming out of there. You really don't get to unity gain until you're just a little bit over noon. And really about right here is where we start actually pushing it. Much, much better. Now let's turn the treble all the way down so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. Here, it almost acts like a tone control. You're kind of washing out a lot of the treble, and then if you bring it up, accentuating that treble side. Now the bass works a little different. If we turn the bass all the way down, let's turn the bass up to about noon. So here on the bass on this, it just starts to push those bass frequencies up a little bit. It doesn't take it into some unusable field, so you can really use the full sweep of the bass knob to just either push yourself back into the mix a little bit by turning that bass up, or if you want to make yourself stand out of a mix, you can pull the bass back a little bit so that you can get more frequencies out of your sound. So it really is a usable knob. I'm going to leave that in the middle. I'm going to turn the treble up a little bit, and then now I want you to hear the drive section. So we're going to turn the drive all the way down here. You'll notice a lot like the volume, the lower that is, the less you're going to get out of it. So I like to bring it up just a little bit. Bring it up a little bit more. Ooh. And we bring it up to about 75%. really got some crunch on it. And then you max it out. And then bring your drive all the way maxed out. Bring that back just a little bit. Bring our bass up and our treble up. Bring that drive all the way out. And wash our bass out a little bit. Just a really nice solo tone, sounds great, but it doesn't get over the top crazy, just pushing you into these wild, wild realms, right? But you can hear, like, if I max that out a little bit, there's a little bit of a hiss there. You can hear a little bit of that noise in the background, right? It's pushing it a little bit, but it's not pushing it into something unusual. So now what we're going to do is let's take this down. We're going to go about to here, bring this up. It's about here and 2 o'clock there. This will give us a nice little... All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna combine this with a few other pedals so you can kind of hear how it enhances its sound. So the first thing we're gonna look at is the new Browne Carbon X, one of my favorite overdrives of all time. I want you to hear how these sound together because it is pretty freaking amazing. So I'm gonna turn both the left and the right side on, put a picture up here so you can see what the Carbon X is set at, but it's set to kind of a mid-gain, kind of drivey sound, like something like that, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in the Benson again and watch what happens. Now, let's give it a little bit more volume and a little bit more drive. Now I'm going to take away the Carbon X. Back in. Just sounds abso-freaking-lutely killer. All right, now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take that same Carbon X and add in the Bondi Del Mar, and let's see if we can push this into some like 90s grunge kind of sounds. Ooh, let's try this. Let's add in a little more treble. You can hear it can really get some serious gain on tap, and that germanium holds steady and really keeps its sound consistent throughout. I'm so impressed. And you can hear I've got my 2 overdrives off, but I've still got that Germanium preamp on. It's not causing a ton of background tone. You can hear a little bit in the background as it's pushing the amps, but it's not insane. Now let's try something else. Let's take a little fuzz and run that in front of it, because a lot of times fuzz, especially, I'm going to use an octave fuzz. I'll use my Cunningham Octave Fuzz. When you're pushing octave fuzz into a germanium transistor, sometimes it kind of washes things out, makes it a little muddy, just doesn't sound that good. Let's see what happens when we do the same thing here. So let's turn on our octave fuzz and R. Well, here, let me let you hear what the Octave Fuzz sounds like on its own. Cool, like that. Now let's add in the Benson. See how it kind of tames those harsher edges? That is just gnarly, gnarly, gnarly sounding. All right, but for our last experiment, I want to show you one of my favorite pedals of all time, the Mu-Tron Micro-Tron. That thing is one of the best auto wahs. It sounds so, so good, and it gives you that kind of funky, cool sound, like think Fish Jam Session kind of sounds. But typically, when you run any kind of fuzz or even a good preamp behind it, especially Germanium, they tend to get a little freaky. Like I usually have to run all my Germanium stuff through before I put on the Mu. But I am so, so impressed with how this handles it. So let me let you hear what the Mu-Tron sounds like by itself. So just my regular settings where I'm at. Cool, right? Sounds good. But now let's introduce a little bit of that Germanium preamp in there. Now let's bring the bass up a little bit, watch that treble back a little bit. Maybe I'll pull the drive back just a little and watch what happens. That just sounds so absolutely killer. And if we introduce a little bit of drive to that, pull the volume back a little bit. And if we take a little of the drive out and we add a little bit more volume in, we can even bring the treble up just a little bit, pull the drive back a little, and that'll give us a little bit more clarity on the notes. Just such a cool everyday enhancer pedal. I absolutely love the way that this sounds. So what'd you think? Flippin' amazing, right? I'm so blown away. As a pedal on its own, as a standalone preamp, it sounds fantastic, and I'm absolutely in love with that. But where I think it really shines is allowing other pedals to push through that Germanium, especially if you set that volume up in kind of a good, little bit of 3/4 of the way up, and then push the drive just a little bit. Not too much. You don't want to take it into a real fuzzy sound, but just give it a little bit of drive on the front end of that, so that when you're pushing some more preamps or some more pedals through it, you can really take them to that next level and get that extra grit and that extra grime in there. Oh, it's just so, so cool. And even with a little boost in front of it, you can keep your signal pretty clean, but it still adds this depth and this warmth that just, I haven't heard a lot of other pedals do. So well done, Chris. You nailed this. So in love with this. Absolutely killer. And hope you saw the little sneak peek in there. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at that Carbon X from Browne Amplification a little closer, because that is my new favorite drive pedal. Oh my gosh, what Dave did here is insane. So we'll take a deep dive of that next week and let you hear it in person. Well, as always, I'd love to thank my friends over at Palen Music for hosting us. It's been wonderful here. If you guys are looking for one of these pedals, please reach out to them. I know that Kyle can get them on order there, so please drop them a line. They would be happy to help you out getting one of those Benson Germaniums for yourself. And if you get a chance, please hop over to Instagram if you happen to be on there. Give me a follow at What's This Button Do Dustin. I'll put the little link down below so you can see that as well. We'll be posting more content and some more fun stuff over there, so join us on there if you happen to be on that platform. But as always, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you. If you have other pedals you'd like to see me run through this, other ideas for how we can get creative with the pedal, please, please, please comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on it and be glad to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for coming out and spending your time with me this week. I can't wait to see you next week. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you soon.